I wonder if I can find a way to set this down on something. All right. So the situation is what? You went off to Louisville.
Yeah, I went to Louisville and
Undergraduate.
ROTC scholarship, Navy ROTC scholarship.
Yeah.
Tuition, books, fees, and $50 a month scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was there for a year and a half. Well, that last half a year, the last semester, I had 2 good semesters or semi-good semesters and 1 bad one. And so the dean of men called me in and said, I don't know how in the world you ever got registered for this semester, but you're going to have to go home. You know, you've been a bad boy.
Not getting good grades.
And you're going to have to stay out for a year.
Okay.
Before we'd even consider letting you back in. Well, I mean, I was on a scholarship, and the Navy people weren't having a lot of luck getting people to sign up to go to the University of Louisville. So they were happy to keep me. So I went home. This was in the January of '58, I think.
Now you're saying they didn't kick you out. The ROTC people didn't though. They said come on back.
No, I was cut off of everything.
When you said they weren't, you
They
said
wouldn't have
oh okay.
if the school had let me stay there.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it was January of '58 or February, something like that. Anyway, I had gone to classes for about 2 or 3 weeks, and there was a recession going on, so there were no jobs to be had back here in Ironton, Ohio. The only thing I knew how to do was pass papers and cut grass.
Right.
And, you know, don't call us, we'll call you. So I wasn't very popular around the house. The old man, my father, had bragged to all his friends at the C&O railroad shop where he worked, how his son had gotten this wonderful scholarship to go to the University of Louisville. And now his wonderful son had drank his way off of a wonderful scholarship and been kicked out of school.
And how old's Jim? Is Jim like a senior in high school or?
Jim was, no, I think he was like a sophomore.
So he's that, okay, he's way behind you. Okay.
And, so, no jobs. And so I went over, the other thing I knew how to do was Navy a little bit because I'd been in ROTC. So I went over to the recruiting station over in Ashland, Kentucky, across the river, and talked to the recruiter there, and he agreed that he would sign me up to go in the Navy as an enlisted man. And he gave me a test. They always give you a test. And I was the first person, and as far as I know, the only person ever, to got 100% on the entrance exam to get enlisted in the Navy.
Okay.
So they put me in charge of an old boy from West Virginia and put us on a train to go to Great Lakes Naval Training Center in Great Lakes, Illinois. And so I went up there and got into the company, and since I was one of the only people who knew how to march, they put me in charge. I had like 90 guys that was under me.
Now, what month is it? Is it February?
It's like February, March, something like that.
58. Okay.
And well, it was very stressful. And after about I don't know, 6 weeks maybe, I went to sick bay because I had a real bad cold. They thought that I had pneumonia, put me in the hospital.
Really?
So I got out of that company. And in those days, I think it was like 12 weeks of basic training. And then you would go on and get some kind of
Well, I put it on
technical
on
training. I was
briefly.
going to be an electronics field
I-
seaman recruit,
That didn't work. So I started.
aviation electronics. So I was going to do good stuff. So after I was in the hospital for about a month, they discovered that maybe I didn't have pneumonia, that they had an accident and some of the plates, the x-ray plates, had touched together, and that's why they showed like I had a big lump on my chest.
Okay.
So they cut me loose, sent me back. I joined another company of enlisted men.
Right.
Well, the guy who was in charge of that company of enlisted men wasn't doing a real good job, according to the senior enlisted guy that was in charge of the whole company. So my old company commander told the new company commander, well, you know, I think maybe Woods has learned his lesson, you know, put him in charge. So they put me in charge of that one. So when you're in boot camp, you get various lessons every day. And one of the lessons was ROTC, the officer program. Well, I knew about that program because
Obviously.
that was the gravy train that I had been kicked off of. Well, I knew that in order for me to graduate on time, I had to go back to Louisville where I could get credit for my D's. I had a bunch of D's that I had earned that last semester.
Which is a passing grade.
Yeah. And so I said, I'll sign up for that. The next day they had other officer programs, the Naval Academy. And you could sign up to try to go there. Well, I didn't want to go there because I'd heard stories about how they would harass you. The upper class would harass you and haze you and stuff like that. So
People's talking about plebe year. That was stories
Plebe
percolating
year,
out from
yeah.
plebe year. Okay.
So I said, well, but if I don't sign up for that, they won't think I'm sincere. So I'll sign up for that. So I signed up for both officer programs. At the end of the time that we graduated from our boot camp, I was elected to be the honor man for my company. That was number one guy. That was good. And I had to stick around for about a week up at Great Lakes, doing nothing but just waiting to take the Navy College aptitude test. So I did, and I took the test. And then I went home for, I think I had a week leave or something
Hey,
like that.
let me ask, do you need that door open?
Yeah.
Hey, Kenzer or Paul, would you let the...
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's outside.
So,
Yeah.
okay, where was I?
What, stuck a week waiting for the
Oh,
aptitude.
yeah. So I took the test, and I went home for a week of leave, and then I was sent out to Norman, Oklahoma. Now, by now, it's like June or July. It's hot in Norman, Oklahoma, let me tell you. One of the things that happens when you go to a place like that in those days was they would take a draft of incoming students, and they would go to the mess hall, and they would serve the food or clean up the dishes and stuff like that.
KP.
For about, I think, 9 weeks, 10 weeks maybe, something like that. Well, I was unlucky enough to get picked for that. So instead of going for electronic training, I went into the scullery. And after I've been there for about a week or two, I was put in charge of the scullery.
I thought there was a aspect of this where you volunteered trying to be clever for KP. No, that's not part of it.
No.
Okay.
No, I was assigned that.
Okay.
Then, I guess I'd been there about 6 or 8 weeks.
What's a
And
scullery?
it was
Dad?
awful because it was boiling hot.
Paul
all
says,
day
"What's a
and all
scullery?"
night. Huh?
That's the kitchen. The scullery is the kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there were about, I don't know, 6 or 8 of us in there,
Boiling hot.
cleaning trays.
Yeah.
And I got called up to the office, and the chief that was in there said, "Well, Woods, you got orders here. If you accept them, you're going to go to prep school
Okay, just makes it
at Bainbridge, Maryland." I said, "What the hell's a prep school?" "The pep school," he said.
Pep school. Yeah.
I said, "Well, I don't know. Woods. I think it's cheerleaders for the Naval Academy or something like that. I don't know." I said, "I don't care what it is, Chief. If it gets me out of here, where do I sign?" So I signed and I headed back to
You really don't know what it is.
no.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
You're going to pep
On
school.
the way back to the barracks, I was walking with another guy who had been offered the same thing, and he knew that it was prep school for the Naval Academy.
The last place you wanted to go.
Well, yeah, but
Of
it
course.
was prep school for any officer program.
Oh, okay.
So ROTC or the Naval Academy. Same old. Got up there and it was just Bainbridge was no problem. I had an aunt and an uncle who lived just 10 or 15 miles up the road, so that was good.
Where's Bainbridge?
Yeah,
Where is it?
Northeast Maryland.
Okay.
When you go at 95, you cross the Susquehanna River.
Yeah.
Well, it's just on the far bank of the Susquehanna River. And so it was a piece of cake. Well, the academics were.
Right.
And they had a football team. So I played 1 year of football in high school. I didn't play much, but I was on the team. So it was something to do in the afternoon, so I signed up for that. Well, the coaches at the Naval Academy keep a close eye on that outfit, the prep school, because they think, well, maybe we'll get somebody in here that'll become a football player. And they had not only have a varsity football, but they had something called the 150-pound football.
Right.
I think the lineman could weigh 160, but everybody else was down there on my height, my weight. I weighed about 130, 135. And of course I didn't get to play much, but I was on the team and I was making all these good grades in the prep school. I had a year and a half of college and I was a star student in high school anyway. So I didn't have any problem with the academics. After a while, they gave us a test for ROTC. It was maybe college aptitude test, I think.
Do you think they know that you've already been through that and washed out?
No, nobody gathered.
There's no computers.
Together.
Right. There's no internet.
So I tried my level best on that test. That was for ROTC.
This is the story I wanted.
And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, they gave us the college boards for the Naval Academy. The regular college boards that everybody takes. Well, I didn't want to go to the Naval Academy. I heard too much about that. And I figured that I could get into Louisville and get back on the gravy train if I just could avoid going to the Naval Academy, because if you get selected for both programs, you don't get a choice.
You're going to Navy.
You go to the Naval Academy,
Right.
because only a fool would not want to do that. So anyway, the results so I decided that I would do my best on the math because I wanted to be an engineer by now. And before that, I had told them I wanted to be a doctor. So, well, you know, it's sitting for doctors. So, well, that's what I want to do. Well, they took me in ROTC anyway, the first time around.
Right.
Knowing that I was going to take, you know, the courses that were necessary to get into med school.
Pre-med, yeah, okay.
Pre-med. Anyway, I was going to do my best on the math, and there's two parts to the college boards: the math and the English. And I was going to mess up the English part so that I wouldn't pass. So that year, they had, at the end of the college board test, they had like 4 or 5 pages of text, and you were supposed to fix any errors you found in there and make it better. Well, I put nothing but more errors in that. And I put some errors in the first part of the test, but not too many. But yeah, I was pretty sure I'd fail. Turned out that when the results came back, I had passed. And I didn't find out for about 10 years later that year that was just experimental and didn't count. That
last part, right.
Well, I was faced with a choice. You either go to the Naval Academy or you go back out to the fleet with no technical training. And I had another 2.5 years to serve as a decade, you know, just scrubbing floors and with no chance of really getting a job when I got out, or any good job. So I went to the Naval Academy. Well, I was one of the oldest guys in my class. So they put me in charge of 60 more young Naval Academy people.
Right. What year is it now? When did you
This was
fall of 59?
This was summer of 59.
Yeah. So a year and 3 months after you've departed Louisville, all this come together and you're at the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in charge again. It
I-
seemed like I
did
was
you
in
say
charge
that-
of something, or you know, just all the time in my
Right.
naval career.
Was there at one point in ROTC or now at Naval Academy where you had, at the same time you were like a top grades man, but you had a low graded military bearing or something like that?
Oh, yeah, well, between the second and third semesters at Louisville, we had a summer cruise.
Yeah, okay.
And I was on a destroyer with a whole bunch of other good shit. And it turned out that as far as my grade on a military bearing, I was just awful.
Right.
I was 75 out of 75 of the freshmen that were on that ship.
And describe what military bearing means.
Well, following orders,
Right.
not hiding, doing your job. Oh, I was an absolute mess.
Because you hadn't got your attention grabbed yet.
I don't know why was it that.
But you were on this path that you didn't know at the time that was taking you right out of Louisville.
Yeah.
Your attitude was not right.
Right. Well, but see, the Navy would have kept me. They didn't care about that. They figured they could heal that. But the school wouldn't hold me because I just failed everything.
I get that. What I'm saying is because it's mindful of me and a lesson learned for my kids, right? So you got your attention, you got your collar shook when you got excused out of Louisville, and that got your attention. You probably started to behave a little better then.
Yeah.
You hit rock bottom.
I knew then that I needed to straighten up and fly right.
That was.
I mean, I didn't have any place to go. I couldn't go home.
Right. So I'm guessing your military bearing.
See me.
Your military bearing got a lot better after that too.
Yeah.
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 So.
I mean, you see, the first semester at the Naval Academy, when you're a freshman, is full of little things you have to do and little things that you need to avoid doing.
Yeah.
And if you just are sane enough to keep track of that, it's easy. Because they're just all these rules, you just follow the rules. And the other young 17, 18-year-old guys are all,
Yeah.
scatterbrained. And so they're screwing up left, right, and center. And that's the senior midshipmen are picking them
Yeah.
to go after,
Yeah.
to try to straighten them out. No, I really had no problem at all to Naval Academy.
You've mentioned this before. I think that you wanted to just stay off their radar. You just wanted to just blend in,
Yeah, just follow the rules.
get the details right. Nobody messes with you.
Especially since I had some enlisted service. They expected that out of me. They expected me to be a little more squared away. And so they left me alone.
So nobody ever put together your Louisville history?
No,
Because how would they?
never. I never have been able to figure that out.
Right.
Because I was, like I said, 75 out of 75, but I think 11 or 12 hours of F and D.
But Paul F. Woods at Louisville just was never connected with Paul F. Woods at Navy.
Right.
Even to this day, you think your military, whatever file doesn't show your
I don't know.
ROTC
I don't
Louisville.
know.
That's funny. So how did so you
So
arrive?
once you get in the Naval Academy, if you can just avoid being picked out
Yeah.
as a target, it gets you up in the morning, they put you to bed at night, there's great food, you work out in the afternoon, there's small classes, good instructors, it's no women, no booze, perfect for a guy like me, perfect.
Yeah, no get in trouble. So you do go home once in a while for 2 weeks, but then the rest of the time you're either on a summer cruise or you're at the academy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you get like maybe a week at Christmas and a week or two in the summer when you get to go home.
But the rest of it's okay.
But the rest of the time you're back there doing your thing. And so it was a great education. And see, I'd had 3 semesters of German at Louisville.
Yep.
And I could still remember a lot of that stuff. So the German, you had to pick a language. So I picked German when I went to the Naval Academy, and I got good grades there, and I was even able to take an extra course. And when you take an extra course, the professors in the language department want to get people in there. That's their livelihood. So you didn't have to do a great deal of good work to get a really good grade.
Right.
That would raise your grade point average. So I got like a 3.8 or something like that in language out of 4.
Right.
And piece of cake. Anyway.
So you finish in '63, and the whole thing, it's the last place you wanted to be, and it ended up being the absolute best for you. You've always talked about the Naval Academy being a super terrific place.
Which what?
You've always talked about the Naval Academy being a great thing that happened to you, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. I think my old man still had his fingers crossed that I was going to make it through. It was over with. But I did. I made it through.
What else?
And
Yep.
many of the officers who were made admiral, after serving 25 years, were people who had been aviators.
Yeah.
And so I chose to become an aviator. And I went down to Pensacola, Florida, where they trained aviators.
Let me ask you a preamble That is in the days of carrier aviation dominating naval.
Yeah.
So the guys that ended up leading the task force, you're saying are old aviators who are now the admiral of the task force, 'cause it's all about flying jets off of carriers.
Same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And so I chose that. You get a chance to choose what you want to do. You want
Yeah.
to be a destroyer sailor. You want to be an aviator. You want to go in the Marine Corps.
Submarines. Right.
Submarines, whatever. Well, I chose to be an aviator because I wanted to be an admiral.
Right.
I figured this, man, I'm in the right place now. Let's just pick a good career path and go on with it. But it turns out that I was not meant to fly. And so after, I had great grades in the pre-flight.
The coursework, the academic coursework.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was great. I was probably one of the top 2 or 3 in my whole group. But when we got off the ground, my brain was fried. I just, about the 5th flight, I think, we were going to land the airplane. And you go down and you circle and you go downwind till you get right to where the runway starts going back the other way, and you turn and you come upwind and land.
There's an instructor behind you, right? And you're in a training. You're a plane that's built for practice.
Not only that, but the instructor was from my hometown. He was a Marine captain who was a big star football player at Arnhem High.
Older than you by 2 years.
Ahead of me.
Yeah.
But I went down and 2 times in a row, you got all this stuff you're supposed to do. You're checking this and you're checking that. You're pulling your canopy back and setting up. And then when you get there, you're supposed to turn and come down.
This is what she taught us.
Went right straight on. Just
Your
didn't hear a thing.
your brain kind of locked up, and suddenly you hear the guy hollering at you.
Yeah. A ways down the road, I could hear him hollering at me, and
Let's compare this.
oh, what the hell? Take it around. So I took it around.
Try it again.
And I did the same damn thing again. And so he said, I got it. And so he said, I said, that's it for me. I'm down on request. I figured in order to become somebody important as an aviator, you gotta land on an aircraft carrier.
Right.
Well, if you pass out like that for even a few seconds trying to land on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the night, you're gonna
You're going.
ruin a whole lot of
Right.
expensive aircraft and yourself.
Right.
So I cashed it in. I said, that's it. I'm going home.
Okay.
Send me somewhere else.
Do you remember anything about your physical or otherwise your mental state when this
No.
phenomenon
No.
occurred?
No.
Just know that you don't remember, and then suddenly this guy's yelling at you, and you come back to.
Right.
I've never experienced anything like that. That was my second story I wanted to hear. That's a good one.
Yeah. It was weird. Because I could climb trees and all sorts of stuff. I never thought I had a.
No fear of heights.
Well, now I will say this: at the Naval Academy, we had a 20-foot tower up over the swimming pool,
Yeah.
where you had to go to the edge, cross your arms and cross your legs, and jump off into the water. I was not too comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Being loose out there without something to hold on to was not my cup of tea.
Right.
But I did it. If I knew that when I did it the first time that I was going to have to do it again 2 years later when I was a junior or senior, I forget what, I'm not sure I would have done it the first time. But I did it. Got through it. But I had to go, I went out to the edge, and the instructor down there could see that I was hesitating. Go ahead, jump. Just leave me alone.
Right.
Backed off. And I just caught my breath and went out again. And he did it again. And I said, just leave me alone. And then I finally jumped off
Yeah.
and got through it.
Yeah.
But, you know, hell, I was always one of the top ones in any kind of physical ed.
Yeah. What sports did you do at the Naval Academy? I mean, you did a lot, but you told me that you did a little bit of boxing.
Well, see, you have an introductory thing on boxing and wrestling and all kinds of sports.
Right.
Fencing. One semester I did fencing. I did basketball. I did volleyball. I was in volleyball senior year. I think in the spring I was a volleyball referee.
Okay.
Just all kinds of stuff. No problem. I don't know that I ever did any soccer.
Did they have it? They have it back then. People playing soccer at the Naval Academy.
Yeah,
Okay.
they had a big soccer program.
What about? So now you're in the fleet. You got your own gunboat. There's a story or two that are pretty cool there.
I started off as a destroyer officer. Well, first of all, when I dropped off of the aviation, they sent me to become the pilot of a drone.
Okay.
A drone helicopter.
Radio controlled.
Called the Drone Anti-Submarine Helicopter, Dash. QH-50 Charlie. It was a good-sized drone. It would carry 2 torpedoes
Oh.
and land on the back of a destroyer. It had a 300 horsepower engine, I think, something like that. And in fact, we had about 6 or 8 guys that had to take care of it.
Is it? It's a line of sight. You're just looking at it, or is it actually cameras on video?
Yeah. You see, what happened was you would take it off and point it out in some direction, and then you would transfer control to the guy who was up in the Combat Information Center, who was tracking it on radar.
Wow.
So he would take it out, and he could see where the target submarine was, and he would let go of the torpedoes, or it was capable of carrying a nuclear death bomb.
Right. Okay.
We never had one, but it would do it. And I think that I was the only one, to my knowledge, who never crashed one.
Right.
And I had, I don't know, 600, 700, 800 landings.
Wow. Okay.
The landing on the aircraft, on the destroyer, was the tricky part. Taking off, you
Right.
just crank up the engine and away it goes.
Yep.
The landing was another thing, but I was good at it.
The original UAV.
Yeah.
That's cool. The original unmanned aerial vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what I'm looking for is
about that was,
yeah.
you see, when I went to this destroyer after I had done my training on this drone,
Dash.
the CO was an old fighter pilot whose eyes had gone bad, and they put him in as the CO of the destroyer, and so I was his aviator. I was his boy, the golden boy.
He knew that you DOR'd out of aviation, but he still liked
That's what
you.
he liked.
Okay.
So I got good marks out of him, but I was good anyway. I could always, I could empathize with the people under me. I would always go and get my fingers into whatever it is they was doing. You know, if they were reading schematic diagrams of the electronics, I would try to go follow along with what it was. What were they doing? What were they doing? And you know, they loved that. And so I was their boss. Good man. And I got the top jobs up there chasing submarines at night after I was no longer doing the drone. I was up on the bridge as the guy who was running the show.
Where are you deploying to?
Oh, the Med, the Caribbean, both.
Okay. Mediterranean. Where are you based out of? Mediterranean.
Oh, we weren't based out of anymore. We were based out of.
Oh, I mean, where are you operating out of? Are you dropping into all different ports?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
various all around.
Three, Barcelona, Naples.
Yeah.
Those are the main ones.
And do you guys? I know nothing about this. You make port for a day or two, and you get to go explore sometimes.
Yeah, maybe a week.
For like this is like once every couple of months. You get a week off in a port.
Yeah, maybe even 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
You might have a couple of days in.
Okay.
You know, depending on what you needed. If you needed work done, you might be in there for 2 weeks, getting work done out of timber.
Is a destroyer cruising around by itself, or are you with a whole bunch of
No,
other?
you're with a
task force
carrier and
Okay.
a bunch of other ships. Yeah. See, what you have out there in those days was you have a carrier, and it had like 8 or 10 destroyers in a circle around it to protect the carrier.
I've read tons of books about it. I get it. Yeah.
And you're up there just keeping station. If you're supposed to be, you know, on a bearing and range from the carrier, that's what you're supposed
Yeah.
to keep watching the radar and maneuvering the ship to stay there.
Yeah. I think by the time that the fiction, the Tom Clancy books that I read tend to be Atlantic, the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
I don't think we even have any more carrier task force in the Mediterranean, which is why it confuses me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, so
Well, we'd go out of Washington
yeah,
and we'd head down to the Caribbean place.
right, okay,
You know, to Puerto Rico or the Virgin Islands
Yeah.
or Guantanamo.
right,
One of the first cruises I ever made was when I was while I was still an ROTC midshipman. We went down through the Panama Canal and down the west coast of South America,
right.
out of Chile.
Did you have a crossing the equator ceremony? Did you ever get any craziness?
Yeah.
What happened the first time you crossed the equator? Anything
I
wild?
don't remember anything particular.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, okay. So I'm looking for stories. There's one that I'm curious to hear about your gunboat and Vietnam, and then I want to hear about Top Gun when you were recruiting command.
Oh. Well, let's go back to let's see. I was a hotshot destroyer officer as a lieutenant. And that was, you know, your ensign, JG, and a lieutenant.
So hot shot means you're getting good marks,
Yeah, real good.
and you're on the way up.
As a matter of fact, I got early promoted to be a lieutenant commander,
Okay.
and that was like, you know, top 1%.
Okay.
So as a part of that, I got orders to be the CO of the gunboat up in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin.
And a gunboat is a ship. To a regular person, it would look like a small ship.
65-foot.
It's huge.
Aluminum and fiberglass with a F4 Phantom engine
Yeah.
and 2 diesels. And you just cruised around on the diesels. But if you had to be in a hurry, then you could light off that
Crazy.
great all ass
Yeah.
35 knots. But it's sure you run out of fuel pretty quick.
Right. Okay.
Well, fuel. Now, I was the only officer that I know of who had one of those gunboats that didn't burn up an engine of diesel one time or another. I was, religious about keeping the RPM on that engine down to where it wasn't going to burn up.
Okay. And where are you at on this gunboat now?
San Diego.
Okay.
Well, it was being built up in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, and that's where we went up there. This was before you were born. And the Peterson boat builders built it, and I was making reports back to the 3-star admiral back in San Diego about what was going on. And then when it was finished being built, the shipbuilder and my crew took it out through the St. Lawrence Seaway to Boston, where it was turned over to the Navy and commissioned as a ship of the line. And then we stayed there for 3 or 4 weeks. And then the next ship behind me in the line of at Peterson's came out and joined me. And it was an officer that I knew off my same ship. And he was just a few laundry members junior than me. And we after he got commissioned, we went down the East Coast, through the Panama Canal, up the west coast of Mexico to San Diego.
Yep.
Where we went to training to get us ready for combat. And
Vietnam War is underway. Vietnam War is underway.
yeah,
And it's known that your intention is to go and be fire support?
yeah.
Okay.
We were supposed to be inshore, close inshore,
All right.
to, help cut down on North Vietnamese stuff coming down. to
Supply
the south.
routes. And what's your main gun system? It's a 5-inch?
3-inch 50.
3-inch. Okay.
And we had a 50 caliber up on the bridge, too. The main thing was the 3-inch 50.
What's a 50 mean? 3-inch 50.
The barrel length was 150 inches.
Okay.
So 3 times 50, 150.
Okay.
I don't remember what the max range on this 3-inch was. It was, I don't know, 8 miles maybe?
Okay.
Maybe more than that. So anyway, I did that, and I was promoted to lieutenant commander while I was there. The 3-star admiral at San Diego, that was the head of the group that I was in, the amphibious force, needed a new aide, because his aide had, served his time. So I was selected to do that job. I went over and had an interview with him. Okay, we got the job.
And being an admiral's aide for a spell is a fast track job
Yeah,
also.
that's a good job.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, a couple of weeks after that, after being selected for the job, before I could report to the admiral, he got orders to go to Washington to this job he didn't want. But the guy who was coming in behind him had more pull than he did, so he got kicked out of his good job to go back and become the commandant of the Industrial College of the Armed Forces at Fort McNair.
Okay.
And so he called me and said, John, okay, this is what happened. Now you wanna go with me? Because he's bringing his own guy. The aide, the new admiral bringing his own.
And what year do you think it is now?
Well, you were born right after we got there.
That's what I was asking. So it's late 60s or even early.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, well, let me think about that, Admiral. And so I went and got on the phone and I called the office of the Admiral back in D.C., which was vacant, but the secretary was there. And so I talked to her, Boxy Powell, little Virginia guy, and found out that they, part of that thing that happened at that was a one-year course for the officers, but part of that was a master's degree in what do they call it? Administration of National Resources
Okay.
at George Washington University, and the admiral's aide was going to live right there on the base, right. And that's where when the building was the one where the courthouse was that tried the people that assassinated Lincoln.
Kids were just asking about that story.
Yeah, right out in the middle of nowhere, right out in the middle of the parade field, really. And the admiral was going to be another couple hundred yards in a big house there on Admiral's Road. So I said, well, Admiral, if you think it'd be all right if I could, take part in this master's program, I'd like to come with you. So, all right, but you can't let it get in the way of your work. Okay, Doc, he was a real tough guy. His daddy was a Marine Corps general called Howling Mad Smith.
Okay.
And his boy was not much,
That sounds like a World War II guy.
yeah.
His dad was out in the Pacific conquering islands.
Yeah.
Alan Mad Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we packed up our stuff and moved to
Fort McNair.
Fort McNair.
So there's a legend. It's probably. So there's the legend that I have in my head is that the house we lived in, that Lincoln's assassin was hanged right outside that house. The
Yeah.
gallows were in the backyard or something.
Yeah, well,
They weren't there anymore,
They
but
were in the front yard down towards, the street, maybe, I don't know, 40 yards.
and how do you know that? Is there a marker at that time that says here's where the
At Fort McNair.
at the time it said here's where the gallows was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, had pictures.
Oh, okay. You had okay. And then that's where we've heard this great story where the house had such big closets and
Well, they had big high ceilings.
there wasn't a crib yet, and the furniture wasn't there, but there was a dresser of drawers, and so I'm a baby,
Yeah, I think so.
and some women come around saying we need to see the baby. So what do you mean? Well, you can't come in. No, they come back and they insist we need to see the baby, and it was because some other kids like Paul and Julia or somebody had been saying my little brother, my mommy keeps my brother in a drawer in the closet.
I don't remember where the drawer was, but you were in a drawer.
Well, but not shut in the drawer.
No,
In a big, huge closet the size of a room, and the drawer was probably a crib that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these women came around insisting on seeing, like, and I think at one point they just said, "No, we're coming in."
Yeah.
They were worried about me.
Whatever.
Okay, so Fort McNair. But then you end up, you do end up, I guess you finish that master's degree and you end up deploying where you were headed
After
to begin with.
After that, I was due for orders. So I called the Bureau of Naval Personnel and asked them about what they were going to do, what they had for me. Well, you haven't had any unaccompanied tours. This asshole said, I think we'll send you to Korea, to the DMZ.
What does unaccompanied tour mean? That means command,
Yeah,
out on your own?
Without your family.
Oh, that's what it means. I thought it meant, okay.
I don't know. But
She won't bite you.
So,
She's scared of you. And,
It's okay, you're okay.
So I went in and I talked to the admiral. I said, he's talked to Bureau. They're talking about sending me to Korea, unaccompanied. I said, what? They can't do that. That's an insult to me.
uh-huh.
So I got sent up to Newport, Rhode Island, to be part of the junior course at the Naval War College.
Okay.
It's another good job.
What do you mean be part of the course? What do you mean? To take the course?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
see, there's a senior course for commanders and a junior course for lieutenant commanders.
Okay.
And it's supposed to prepare you for serving on staffs for the next 10 years. Till
Okay.
you get to be senior enough that you're going to be somebody important.
Okay.
So we went up there, and one of the guys at the industrial college where I was the aide was a lieutenant who was in charge of the bookstore, and he had gone to officer candidate school up at Newport, and he had lived with a couple other guys in this beautiful property,
Oh, right. Okay.
Indian Spring, up at Newport. And so he was still in touch with the millionaire oil heiress who owned the house. Well, she had been anxious to keep it rented out so she could depreciate it. I mean, it had huge sculptures in the yard by Alexander Calder, and a lot of little ones in the house by Alexander Calder. A big polar bear rug in the living room. Oh,
It's a super rich person mansion.
Yes.
Like it's the equivalent of a billionaire's mansion or
Yeah.
something. Okay.
so we lived there.
And we live there.
$200 a month.
Just the family.
Yeah.
You, Mom, Paul, Julia, me.
Yeah.
And this is like a 10-bedroom house or 20 or
Oh,
something
no, it wasn't.
insane or?
I mean, I don't remember how many. We mostly lived down in the servants' wing.
Really, it's that big.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's a nice property. It's still
Okay.
up there.
Okay.
You're ever up there.
Say what it's called again?
Indian Spring.
In Newport, Rhode
Yeah,
Island.
they had a spring in one corner of the property.
All right, I'm gonna look it up.
Oh,
I've seen a couple of pictures. But
Paul went to first grade, Julie went to second. Second grade Paul went to, and Julie went to first grade
okay,
at the Clooney School,
okay,
which was a Catholic school just a couple blocks away.
okay.
Oh, it cost $200 a day to heat the place in the winter time. We were paying $200 a month.
And
rent.
no one else lived there. These people weren't there.
Yeah,
You were just occupying this empty
Yeah.
mansion.
yeah.
Yeah. For how long?
It was about 9 months,
Okay.
8 or 9 months.
Okay.
That was a crazy, crazy deal because right after my group got there, they changed the commandant of the school, or the superintendent, or whatever the hell he was, to a guy who decided that he wasn't going to do the same thing they had been doing. That is, get us ready for this staff job. He was going to try to see if we could develop another great thinker, naval thinker. And so he had us studying stuff from the Peloponnesian War, early days of like oar-driven ships and stuff like that, and World War I, and just all kinds of weird stuff.
The Renaissance naval man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to be any good to us.
Tactical. Yeah.
I was furious. And when the Secretary of the Navy came down there to talk to us, it was to CNO, I forget what, but well, I raised my hand, and I just raised hell about why we weren't getting the training that we needed for
To-
the next 10 years.
To
of
go
our
fight a
career.
war. Yeah.
That got me a trip in to see the admiral the next day.
In a bad way or in a?
Oh, what the hell do you mean doing that? I'm telling you what, Admiral, I said it and I stand right by it. You guys are making a mess out of us. You know, you couldn't even have any kind of decision making that involved any kind of man. Nothing. You know, it was a joke.
Naval philosophy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it didn't work. No, I got out of there and went to Hawaii.
Okay.
Well, it did hurt me because I got sent to a ship which had a bigot on it. The CO of the USS Knox was a bigot from Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
And this was when we were having a lot of trouble with the blacks on the ships.
You mean it was trouble? They were trying to integrate the Navy, and it was
Well,
rough
the
going.
Navy was already integrated.
Okay.
You know? They were trying to teach people not to be bigots, not to hold it against somebody because they were black.
So the Navy was integrated, but there was still
Yeah.
institutional
Yeah.
trouble, and they were
Yeah.
trying to fix that.
Yeah.
So what this is now
So he
71.
He didn't
72.
write me a good report. And that was the first report I'd had. It wasn't just water walking.
You didn't get along with him because he wasn't part of this new progressive movement,
Right.
and you were on. Okay.
Well, you know, he just wanted to hold it. He didn't have anything good to say about any black guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And we had a lot of good people. We had, one time we were out there in the storm, and we had a lookout that was supposed to be in the after lookout in the back of the ship. And the weather was terrible. I mean, terrible. It was pounding and the seas were running wild. And I wanted to bring the guy back up off the main deck to where he you'd be safe. And he wouldn't hear of that. I mean, that was even a white guy.
You're worried about his safety. His job was just to be out there watching to make sure no one smashed into the back of the boat. Well, what's the
Yeah.
after lookout
Well,
looking for?
To look and see, yeah.
No one hits us from behind. Okay.
Right. Well, we lost that guy. He went on the side. Never did find him.
You had advocated for bringing him in. The guy said no, and he went over.
Yeah. It never did go anywhere. Yeah, it was wrong. But your mother and I weren't getting along, so I had two senior captains that I went to work for there in Pearl Harbor, who were the head of Destroyer Squadron 35. And I was the chief staff officer. And they wrote me up to the sky. She was very good.
Great performance reviews. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't get command of a destroyer after that XO tour. I was XO
On the Knox.
and so that was him.
That's the guy that gave you the bad marks.
Yeah. But you know, the one good thing about that was I knew I could have maybe salvaged my career by taking another XO tour.
Right.
But I don't have to go back to sea and leave you guys with your mom.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
So I told the people in the bureau.
But soon after that, you did go. You went to England. But
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
What I asked him, I says, look, I got to get my wife off this island.
Oh, I know. Okay, right.
So, what have you got? Well, we got shore duty in England. I said, that's it.
She'll like that.
Yeah. If she'll go anywhere, it will be shore duty in England. So I got the orders there, and I was able to finagle it into a 2-year tour instead of a 3-year tour because I was willing to go unaccompanied. They didn't have to move you guys in. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I went to England, and that wasn't a very good tour either.
But you thought that we were going to come. You were unaccompanied, but you thought we were going to come to England?
Well, I hoped that she would change her mind, but she never did.
Okay. So this came up recently. I'm going to give a tangent here briefly. Julie was here visiting you, and we were exchanging text messages, and she was talking to you and sent it to me, and it was something about, and you remembered something that I remember from when I was 3 years old. I have very few memories, right? But I'm in the.
I called you in there and I told you I'm going to have to go, and I'm going to be gone for 780 days or something like
Yeah.
that. Whatever 365 times 2 is.
Yeah. 730, right? Or yeah. So I remember that conversation, but a snippet, like a picture, and I'm in my memory at least. I'm right inside the door of that McGrew Loop house, 6 feet inside the door.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me, like, I think you're on your way out the door.
Yeah.
I'm going, but I'm going to come back in 2 years. I'm going away for 730 days. And that landed. And I knew, okay, my dad's leaving, but he's coming back in 730 days. So here we go.
I chose that to be something that you could relate to.
Right, it worked.
Today is something that you knew about.
It worked. That's right.
I just found my
And I had never, I don't think, told anybody that I remembered that. It never come up in conversation. I don't think I ever told you about that.
Yeah.
And so here we were, a few months ago, and she brought, somehow you brought it up, and I completely, that's one of the only memories I have of being 3 years old.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool that you remember that too. So the last story, or at least one of the stories I want to, just because it's relatable to current events, I've told folks that my pop had some part. It was some part of Top Gun, and it was funding or something. Something came through
yeah,
recruiting
well,
command.
I got back to be in the, after England, I got orders to come back to the United States. And I chose to go to
New Jersey,
New Jersey.
Naval Air Engineering
Naval
Center
Air Engineering Center.
in
As
Lakehurst.
the
Comptroller. Yeah.
And I had a good tour there too. I was top guy. But it was no good. I mean, if you did, in my line of work, if you didn't have a successful tour as CEO of a destroyer, you were just not going to go anywhere.
And you're now at this point you're a desk man,
Yeah.
bureaucrat.
But while I was in England, I got promoted to commander
Okay.
from lieutenant command, and the people in the bureau thought that was a miracle.
Okay.
But see, I had all this record of top performances in demanding jobs, except for that one.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of the guy on the Knox? That you're.
Yeah. But I don't remember his name off the hand right now.
It ain't important. I just want to Google him and dislike him, but it's not worth. It's bad energy. So now you go from.
He never got promoted.
Okay. You go from Lakehurst to.
Lakehurst, when Paul graduated from high school,
Yeah.
and you were going to be in middle school
Yeah.
and then high school,
8th grade. Yeah.
and Julie was back with her mother by then.
Yeah.
I said, well, I want to go to Washington D.C. where I can finish out my 20-some years and get a job.
Huh. Strategic. Okay.
And where Dave can go to school and whatever. And Paul was going to go to Virginia Tech. So
That's closer. Yeah.
that's on the way to Virginia Tech. So I made good decisions.
So you're able to steer your next duty station in some regard.
Yeah, well, then see, I'd been a highly successful controller at Lakehurst. I doubled the money coming in by my pleading our case.
Okay. All right. Here's what we need. You did a good job of it.
You have bonuses for your people for civil service, and particularly in a place like that where you have a certain amount of control over what you charge, and you can charge money to put aside to do that work.
What do you mean charge?
Well, an outfit wants to see, for instance, we had control of all the land, catapults and arresting gear on carriers.
Yeah.
We had everything from touchdown to takeoff on an aircraft carrier.
Put on the ground. Yeah.
That's what the Naval Air Engineering Center was tasked to do. So if somebody wanted to hire a stud of something, they came to us and asked us.
And you would set the budget requirements. That's the fee you're talking about. Okay.
So I quadrupled the bonuses
For the
for the
staff.
The staff.
Yep.
I had to force that.
But I'm guessing you made it performance based, in as far as let's increase our revenues and we'll increase your bonuses. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Well, see, the boss of the outfit was an aviator captain, and he didn't know anything about finances.
Yeah. Bureaucracy.
I had
Yeah.
some great people working for me as department heads who knew all about finances, and I could go into meetings and just kick ass and take names. They would spin me up to go do something, and I'd do it. And I didn't know anybody there because I was the only destroyer officer on the base.
Okay. You and everybody else was aviation, you're saying?
No, everybody else was in aviation or something
Okay.
else.
Okay. Okay, so moving down to Arlington. You go down to Boston.
Oh, yeah. Then we went down to Arlington and we lived in that little house on that side street.
Yeah. Oakland.
Yeah.
Way there.
How are you?
Hi, Bubba's. Hi, Bubba.
Let's see. We were talking about you were going to relocate to DC area.
Yeah, I came back to become the controller of the recruiting company.
Yeah.
And, they were having trouble getting money. And so I went and spread our case and got about 50% more money. And what it did was allowed recruiters, you're out in the middle of East Jesus, Nebraska.
Yep.
And you got a 150 to 200 mile drive to some place to do recruiting. And if you didn't have the money to pay for a hotel, you just have to sleep in your car.
Right. So you got a
So
little bit of
that
funding.
money that really helped out. What are you doing?
We were doing a lot of math problems. I solved these. Here, there's a sheet.
Listen, I want to see all that. This thing is taking a video right now.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's on. I'm going to keep talking with Pop for a little bit, and then I want to see that stuff.
What is that that Uncle?
Yeah, Uncle talking.
Why don't you go show Pop real quick? Go over there and show Pop real quick what you guys are working on.
Let me find the papers that way.
Show him a little bit of math and a little bit of artwork. Where's the spiral art?
Here's a spiral I did.
You see what this is? You put your pen in a piece of a gear, and it goes around another one, and so
Oh, yeah.
the pen makes a
Okay.
cool drawing.
Yeah.
So I think they did some of that, and then they did some.
It's a math.
And they did a bunch of math together.
Did I put some in the math? I think I might have put
It's
some
really
of
cool.
the math in there.
There you go.
Or are you holding one? Oh, yeah, you're holding one.
All right.
I'm missing one.
Let me get back to story time, okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to get all of them.
I don't know where you got that.
Did Paul bought that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think. It looked like something I would have bought.
Yeah, I
Well, it does.
found this one. Sticker paper.
Okay.
He might have snagged that up at the museum.
Could be. That makes sense.
What is this paper?
I didn't see him with it in his hand. Might have been
Hey.
sneaky.
Kinsey, did your Uncle Paul tell you where he got that?
Finish that story.
Well, that's about the end of it. I finished up my tour there.
But wasn't there an aspect of it in some way? I think you told me you contributed a little bit of funding to when you heard they're making this movie, and it sounded like it was good for recruiting or something like that. That in some way was the Top Gun movie something that came
Might have.
across your desk?
Might have. I don't remember that at all.
I don't remember. Okay.
No.
apparently naval recruiting was boosted significantly
Oh, yeah.
by Top Gun, and I had it in my head that you
I
guys
guess.
in some way, of course, you didn't know it was going to be a hit movie, but that there was some funding that came through or something. I don't know.
Don't know.
Okay. And then the other story that I liked the most was how years later you got involved in the Standard Missile, of course, was neat, but then because I did some of that work too. But then years later after that, even we're in the Iraq War and Humvees are getting blown up.
Oh, yeah, well, the improved or the
Mine resistant, ambush protected.
IEDs.
Yes, I improvised explosive device.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was in Washington working for them. I think I was working for the Naval Research Department
Okay.
Command. And my boss got called by a guy down at in the Marine Corps who was going to be put in charge of building trucks that would not be blown up,
Right.
that would be protected. And it was a $16 billion project.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was the biggest project in DOD at the time.
Because in those days, this is like 2005 or something,
Yeah,
6, 7, somewhere around there.
Yeah, something like that.
And all the casualties, the news was
Yeah.
that we were losing we were just in
The
the,
company,
the-
the citizenry would not have let us continue that war.
because all it was guys getting blown up in their Humvees.
So, casualties.
Yeah.
So it was fix it or get out.
Yeah.
And so, the guy called my boss up and said, you know, I've been put in charge of this, I need Paul Woods.
That's cool.
Went,
And to make it my understanding of this short story, nothing happens fast. The DoD doesn't buy anything quickly.
no.
It takes years to build one thing, to prototype something, and then another year to decide if we're going to buy it, and 2 more years to buy it. But we didn't have that kind of time.
Right.
So what did you guys do?
Or we just expedited everything, we just acted fast.
But you sent money to like 18 different companies and said, build a strong truck.
I think we had 12 or so, maybe even more than that to begin with, vendors
Yeah.
that were gonna say that they could produce these trucks.
Yeah.
And we had to get a design, and then they had to buy off on the design and price out what it was costing, and it was costing like $500,000 a truck. And another $500,000 for maintenance.
Right.
So, and then we got these Russian transport planes that would carry like 6 or 7 trucks
Really?
from the United States over to Iraq.
Yeah.
And we had ships that we were putting them on, and we had to train people to operate them, had to train people to maintain them, had to buy all the parts and get them over there. It was a humongous problem.
So within a year, did you guys have trucks
Yeah.
deployed?
Yeah,
V-shaped
Yeah.
holes and big suspensions and lots of armor,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
they could survive a roadside blast.
yeah,
Better at least.
yeah.
So Jack and I were at a basketball game. We went to see the Richmond Spiders play 3 months ago, and outside the Coliseum was 1 or 2 MRAPs, these big,
Yeah, that's him.
crazy trucks. The
Yeah.
wheels that big, and it doesn't fit. There's not much room in there, but it has to be super high off the ground because it's got this V-shaped hole, and the
Yeah.
blast is going to go up.
Yep.
And it was a really impressive, crazy vehicle. And I'm telling these 25-year-old guys, my dad made these. My dad put these MRAPs into Iraq, and guys stopped getting blown up.
Yeah.
Really proud of that. That's an awesome
That was
story.
really something. Did that for, I think, 2 or 3 years, I forget which. Got a big pay raise.
All right. I've kept this one super late. It's way
Yeah, when
past.
you go on the road with your dad, you gotta be ready to stay up, don't you?
We're gonna go. Those are good stories.
All right.